Welcome to MMO Grinder Backtrack, where I take a look at games I've reviewed previously to check out what's new. Today in August of 2014, I'll be revisiting Firefall, the open-world MMO shooter I reviewed back in its open beta, back in episode 47. To say the game has been through some changes since that video would be quite the understatement. So let's get into looking at all the differences that might as well have me doing another full episode on it, now that the game has reached its official launch. Originally, Firefall was mostly structured as a sandbox-style game, allowing you to partake in random events and performing mining tasks, and that was about it, until you unlocked smaller areas and events that take on the final and only instance dungeon. Now there's plenty of obtainable tasks for you to perform via the game's various job boards. These are located in each general town area. You can perform tasks on there for items and loot and frame experience. Tasks range from minor tasks, major tasks requiring multiple steps, and any quest marked in gold is listed as priority will take you to the next area that you can perform more tasks, letting you know when you're geared up enough to move onward. The original dynamic event system of chosen attacks, Ares missions, and melding tornadoes are still in the game, but happen with far less frequency now. As you progress through the story, you'll also be taken to several new dungeons of varying difficulty. The original dungeon, Blackwater Anomaly, is now the highest level of the first dungeon set, and while the dungeon remains mostly the same, some changes to its story and its playstyle grant a new experience, like having to find a lost crew and facing off against a massive final boss before the final escape. You are level matched to each dungeon, so you won't be able to power through any of them by just over-leveling. Frames now have individual experience levels as well as the gear that you equip. On the minus side, the map isn't as free roam as it used to be, as wandering into different areas will have you facing off against enemies that might vastly outlevel you and destroy you in seconds. Keep an eye on your map, or at least get a look at the enemies in the area before you try to fight them. As your battle frame also has levels, you can swap between the 5 starter frames at will, but each new frame will start at level 1. Even the upgraded frames, which are now earned by getting 10 upgrade tokens by reaching level 40, or purchasing them through red beans, the cash shop currency. If you spent a good amount of time and effort in upgrading your old frames and weaponry through the old system, the game will compensate you for it, giving you an appropriate level for your gear. It'll also refund all the effort you made through the old crafting system by giving you time, crystite, and research credits. Yes, crafting has been greatly simplified from the original system of gathering absurd amounts of variously named minerals. No longer will you need to hoard and search for massive stocks of carbonite, dolomite, vegemite, and what have you. Instead, all low-level materials require iron, mid-level stuff will use tungsten, and higher-level items use titanium. There are a few other parts required, and all the items require you research them first to obtain the ability to craft them. If you're just starting out, it's best to focus on a single-frame skills once you get an idea for them. Your weaponry will no longer suddenly render itself useless. It can be repaired fairly painlessly now and as often as you wish, and weaponry will even drop during quests and dungeons, or be given as rewards for tasks. However, items you craft will likely be far better than those you just find. Zooming out of the map shows that you have a lot more places on the ruined surface of Earth to go to, at least compared to last time. In fact, the new area, Surtau, is a massive desert just as large as the already massive Coral Forest. In addition to this, Coral Forest is now marked for players of level 1 through level 24. Heading into Coral Forest will, like the dungeons, automatically level you to the highest level allowed in that area. Rumor has it that the actual promised wars over the melding and the territory grabs are well on the way now, and many players are greatly looking forward to see how this plays out. The former structured PvP system is still missing in action from the game, since it was suddenly and inexplicably removed from the game shortly after my review. The idea of open-world PvP somewhat has been implemented, but in the manner that I predicted it would. It's a separate instance area made for the highest level players, in which you're assigned to one of 3 corporations battling over the rarest minerals in the only area of the planet that's still untainted by the melding. Sunken Harbor retains its open PvP as well, although, like last time, I hardly see anyone using it. Here's to hoping we see some structured PvP come back in some form, as it was one of my favorite things about the game. If you follow more than just my videos, you might have noticed my attitude on Firefall changed drastically mere weeks after I'd done my mostly favorable review of the game. Poor decisions were made left and right, patches rendered the game nigh unplayable, and pointless mechanic changes kept happening. Then of course, the removal of structured PvP felt more vindictive than actually necessary. It was a few months after that it was announced that the CEO of the company, Mark Kern, was removed from the position and left the company. And while many had speculated whether the decision was his, Red 5's, or a mutual agreement, his removal suddenly showed a revival of work and content being put into the game. these things were certainly not unrelated. There's a fairly interesting post about it on Reddit if you're wanting the details yourself, but let's just say that Red 5 is still very much in the process of what some are calling a dekernification of Firefall. Unfortunately, despite being called an official launch, this is making the game still feel very much like it's in beta. The servers seem a bit unstable, there are bugs everywhere, and the voice acting ranges from great to "are you even trying?" And if you find and read that Reddit post, it will make a hell of a lot of sense as to why. Hell, they even redesigned their logo in an effort to reclaim a new identity. Regardless, I feel Firefall is very much back on track, and despite the overall feeling of linearity the new quest system provides, the game feels like there's a lot more to do now, and at no point do I feel like I'm just repeating the same few tasks ad nauseum. I look forward to seeing new areas, new dungeons, and getting my army, which thankfully can now contain far over just 20 players, back into the game. Feel free to look up and apply for FYGM again. I can actually accept you now. I'll be sure to check back with this game and others in more episodes of MMO Grinder Backtrack. Oh yeah, melding tornadoes are still complete BS, dropships still take off the minute they arrive, and Arrow talks way too damned much. Some things never change.